y'all doing? My name is Timothy Myers. Today, I want to speak on something that the Holy Spirit been dealing with me about. And the question that God had for me was, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And as I think at all the things that God brought me through, all the things that I endured, all the things that that I had suffered, and I look at, when Jesus was asking his disciple, who do man say that I am? And when I began to look at that, few things came to my mind. And that was, oftentimes people can have an opinion on who God is without having a relationship with God. You can be in the church and have an opinion on who God is, but never spend time with him, not in a real relationship with him. And then the second thing he asked his disciples, he asked them, he said, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And that's the question. Who do we say that he is? And the text that I'm referring to is Matthew 16, verse 13 through Matthew 16, verse 13 through 16. And go back to the thought. Who do we say Christ is in the midst of adversity, trials, tribulations? Who do we say that he is? Who do we say that he is? When we know that we must suffer to reign with Christ, we must suffer some things. We do know that. We do understand that we must suffer some things. But in your suffering, who do you say that he is? Who do you say that he is? When people are talking bad about you, who do you say that he is? When people are meaning to defend, to cause offense against you, who do you say he is? Who do you say that he is? Is he still who he say he is to you? Do you still hold on to the promises of God? In this hour right now, in the midst of what you're going through, because we all going through something, who do you say that he is in your circumstance? Who do you say that he is? Whether you're in a hospital, whether you're in your sick bed, whether you're in a hospital, whether you got a divorce, whether you committed adultery, who do you say that he is? And here's the thing. Your perception on who he is determines the outcome. It determines the outcome. Because people have this theory, this fairy tale. They think that God is just in the Bless Me Club, where, if you just ask him for anything, he'll just wave a magic wand and he'll just give you anything you want. But Christ said that, blessed is he. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. For there is the kingdom of heaven. This is Matthew 5, verse 10. Then he said in verse 11, he says, blessed are they when men shall persecute you, say all manner of evil against you, falsely accuse you, Will he still be God? Will you still have a decent conduct? Will you still not take anything personal? Because the attack is not an attack against you, it's an attack against what God has called you to, and the attack is against God out of frustration. So, when we look at this, do we really hold on to what he means to us? And what do we value the God that we so-called serve? Do we hang on to his every word? Are we in agreement to what he has spoken over our life? Are we in agreement to the covenant that we made with him? Right? Are we in agreement with God? Even when we're suffering, even when we're persecuted, even when people don't like us, even when people don't invite us to things, even when we're not in the clique that people have, is he still God? Is he still number one in your life? When men forsake you, when your mother, your father forsake you, when your brothers and your sisters forsake you, is he still God? Is he still God? Who do you say that he is when you're going through turmoil? Who do you say that he is? This is a very important question. It's basic, but it's a very important question. We have to ask ourselves every day. Every day. You know, in Philippians chapter 3, verse 10, it says, I want to know Christ and experience the mighty power that raised him from the dead. I want to suffer with him, sharing in his death. We must understand that in order to reign with Christ, we're gonna suffer some things. It's not Candyland and Lollipopville. We're gonna suffer some things. It's to test your integrity. It's to test how much you love God in spite of you're going through. In spite of the madness that's going on in your life. Will you persevere? Will you still love him? Will he still be your God? Will he still be your king? These are the questions, these are the serious questions you have to ask yourself. You know, I often go back to my childhood, and even when I was in foster care, and as I look back, I think about how I was ripped away from my family, and how I could still remember my mom in the back room crying her eyeballs out because these people came into our home and took us, and it took me, and as I went to this van and went off to St. Vincent's, only thing I can think of is like when I'm going to get back to my family. You know what I mean? I almost felt like Moses going to a strange land. You know what I mean? And these gods and stuff that other people was worshiping that I that was foreign to me. You know, I had people when in St. Vincent's, they was trying to shove Catholic, being a Catholic Christian down my throat. When I got into foster care, you know, you had people trying to shove Islam down my throat, you know, and I found myself, because I was so young at a young age, I found myself worshiping these gods that my mother or my father didn't know of. And I look at my life, I look at how everything happened, how even when I was in foster care, I had to fight with the people that was inside foster care because You know what I mean? Even though we shared the same path, or shared the same situation, our past was different. Our values was different. How we view things was different. And then when I went to school, I was in foster care, and when I was out on the street with people, and hanging out with different people, playing basketball, stuff like that, how my view on life was different from theirs. You know, it was an emptiness there. For me, it was an emptiness there. For me, it felt like I was rejected. You know what I mean? It felt like I've been ripped away from my family and rejected, and moved in with these strangers that I knew nothing about, and worshiping the God that they worshiped. So I felt a lot like Moses, and my frustration was very, very strong. And then when I got out of foster care, I realized, you know what I mean, that I'm not gonna call nobody out, but I realized that individual that could have kept his family out of a bad situation, out of us being in foster care. He could have kept us out of there because of pride, because of arrogance. I got shipped into foster care because of the decision that someone made. But it's by the grace of God that I came out of it with my right mind. By the grace of God, I didn't become a statistic. I wasn't in nobody's jail cell. I wasn't nobody's drug addict. You know what I mean? I wasn't you know what I mean? I wasn't robbing and killing and stealing from nobody. You know what I mean? So I beat being another statistic coming out of foster care. I didn't let my past dictate my future. And when I look back over my life, and I look at where I came from, and from foster care, and you know, my mom getting us out of foster care, and then we moving from state to state. You know what I mean? I look at the different experiences that God allowed me to witness, and even I count being in foster care a blessing too, because sometimes we might look at situations that seem bad, but really it is a blessing in disguise, because some of them things that I went through, it helped me to build my testimony. A lot of those things I went through helped me build my testimony. A lot of those things that I went through helped me build structure and character. And then as I got older, I look back on it and I say, God had His hand all in that, because I could have ended up anywhere. I could have, man. Like, I could have lost my mind so many times. Like, I just look back and how gracious God was. I had guns drawn on me like 3-4 times, One guy damn near almost pulled the trigger, but God allowed cops to be right across the street. I was down South Philly. You know what I mean? Like, I was at the basketball court. Somebody threw a basketball at the guy, and he thought it was me. And I was like, yo, I didn't do nothing. And, he pulled the gun out, and he would have shot me, but he looked over. He seen cops over there, so he didn't shoot me. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, that I wouldn't have been here, but God, He kept me. You know what I mean? So it's like, who do you say God is? And even in my ignorance, He kept me. You know what I mean? Like, even in my ignorance, He kept me. I could have been gone, but He kept me. I had a fast way ticket to hell, but He kept me. He kept me. And he allowed me. He gave me a chance to love Him. You know what I mean? Like, He gave me that chance because He first loved us. We didn't, we didn't first love Him. He first loved us. We rejected righteousness. We rejected the ways because we was born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So He first loved us. You know what I mean? So, only thing I could say is, I'm glad that, He loved me, and that that He gave me the opportunity and the decision and the choice to return that same love back. You know what I mean? So I just thank God for that opportunity that the Lord saved me, you know what I mean, from being shot at. He saved me from a lot of stuff, man, from a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy situations that I was in. I got a lot of testimonies, but I'm not gonna get all into it right now in this video. But when I look back over the foster care and all that stuff like that, man, I just look at it like, Lord, like, people really not when they come out of foster care, they don't be right. Like, their mind don't be right. It's like they, you know what I mean? Even when they get back with their family, like they not right. You know what I mean? Mentally, because it's like all that rejection and hurt. And here's the thing, I want to be known as well too. Just because you was never in foster care don't mean you never had a foster care mentality. Anybody that ever been rejected know what a foster care kid ever went through. They know what a foster kid went through. So if you ever been rejected, you know what a foster kid will feel like. You know what a foster kid feel like. So because what we deal with, what foster children deal with, was a lot of rejection and hurt. Number one, they get rejected by their family and stuff like that. Now, if they go into a loving home, they might get embraced by people that genuinely care about them. But 9 times out of 10, these people just look at them as paychecks. And you know what I mean? They don't care, really don't care nothing about them. And I want to change that theory as well too. Like, you know what I mean? Just for any foster parents that's fostering kids, man, love these children, man. Give them a second chance at life. You know what I mean? Shape and mold them into the leader or into a leader or a good person. You know what I mean? Lead them to Christ. You know what I mean? Lead them on the right path, man. Don't shun them because they don't share your blood. You know what I mean? Because Christ adopted us. Remember, I told you that he first loved us. He adopted us into his family. He engrafted us. And it brought him great joy to engraft us into his family by the adoption. You know what I mean? By the blood of Jesus Christ. So in that great adoption, you know what I mean? Us, as humans, we need to have that same affection towards children that are in foster care, or children that are just in the neighborhood in general. You know what I mean? In your community. Have that same compassion. You know what I mean? And that's why when I look back over my life, I can really say that, who do I say God is to me? He is my protector, my healer, my provider, my strong tower. You know what I mean? My wonderful counselor. Even when I'm wrong, he's there with me. You know what I mean? To pick up the pieces, you know what I mean? So it's like he's so many great things to me. And I can't label him as one thing. But I can tell you who he been in every area of my life. You dig what I'm saying? Like, I can tell you who he was when I needed him to heal my childhood issues. He was that healer. You know what I mean? When I needed him to counsel me in my marriage, he was counseling. He was a counselor. When I needed him to counsel me when I was in my feelings, or when I was acting emotional, or when I was dealing with father issues, he was there to counsel me. You know what I mean? When, you know, even when I was dealing with financial issues, he was there. You know what I mean? You know, so it's like, you know, I'm just raising the question, you know, who do you say that he is? Who do you say that he is to you? And what do he mean to you? What do God mean to you? And who do you say that he is? It's very important. Those are very important questions. Very important. It's simple, but it's very important. Because once this bodysuit leave and perish, now you got to deal with the eternal life. And everything been documented. And God is not like man. You can't weasel your way out of things. You can't lie to him. You can't try to finesse him. You can't try to cap his head up. You can't cap. Like he knows all. So it's like Everybody was given an opportunity to know Christ. Everybody heard of the name of Christ. But what do he mean to you? Are you in relationship with God in this hour? Because, believe it or not, while people are preaching happy messages, Jesus will return. He will return. And all that nonsense that people say that you can do that's really not cool with him, I'll put it like this. Whatever state he finds you in, that's the state he's going to judge you in. Whether it be good or bad, whether you forgave or didn't forgive, whether you hide an ill will between your brother or sister, whatever state he finds you in, that's where he's going to judge you at. Because people want to get past that only God can judge me. Do you really want him to be your judge? Do you really want him to be your judge? Or do you want him to be your father? And just as much as he's a father, he is just. And just as much as he's just, he's faithful. And just as much as he's faithful, he's merciful. And just as much as he's merciful, he has wrath. And if he had one more than the other, then he would not be God. He's all things simultaneously. And one, that's why he is just. That's why he is the just one, the majestic one. That's why he's Abba Father. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to talk to you guys about that, just those two questions. Who do you say that he is? And what do he mean to you? Those two questions. Once again, my name is Tim Myers. Peace.